when this club started. Charlie may know. Charlie doesn't know. Anyway,
Started in the 80s.
back in 83,
I think it started in the knocking time.
back in 83, I joined this club. At that time, it was where the old Sears building,
Right, that's where we had our first.
and that's where I joined, and I got a lot from this club. I got a lot from people like Charlie Harper, from Nellie Knockan, and it was something that I was interested in. I was interested in bees, and you know, as a young man, and I worked regular job, still work all the time, still have a regular job, and I got a lot from this club, and the reason is the interest of the people that are here. You learn from everybody that comes here, from talking and about experiences that happen and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, a honey house is based out of Sunset, between Sunset and Carencro. Been there since 1983. It's my wife and I. She's been with me through the whole thing, and we have 4 kids, and we started as hobbyists with a couple hives. Now, prior to that, I'll take you back real quick. When I was 8 years old, I got my first beehive. Got a swarm of bees. My dad knew a little bit about bees and helped me catch a swarm of bees. Didn't have a box to put it in, like what Mike just said. He put it in a chicken box that you get frozen chickens in, a wax-coated cardboard chicken box. And then from there, we ordered some hive equipment from Sears. Caught some swarms. And when I was 18, 19 years old, I sold my bees. I had about 30 hives. I sold my bees for $5 a hive back then. That's what I could get for them. Back then, bees didn't die. You can say anything you want or believe what you want. You can ask Charlie Harper. Bees did not die. You'd have bees for years and years and years. You didn't medicate them with anything. You didn't do anything to them except put supers on them. I ran them 30 or 40 hives with 2 deeps, a brood nest and excluder, and a deep super, and robbed them 3 times a year, and they were full every time I robbed them. The way I progressed them, they swarmed all the time. The way I progressed them, I caught swarms. And anyway, then when I started in 83 again, it was good for a few years, and then it started getting tough. We got tracheal mites. A few years later, we got varroa mites. Then you have all kind of other things that come into play with droughts and insecticides. And keeping bees today is very, very tough. It's not like it used to be in the olden days. And anybody that ever kept bees a long time ago will tell you that. And anyway, to start back, we started again, my wife and I, in 83, and we started as hobbyists, and it grew and it grew and it grew, and it stayed at certain levels, and you know, to where we're at today. Today we have we produce honey, we pollinate almonds in California. We really don't sell any bees very much because it doesn't pay me to sell bees because I make money with bees. Now, if I ever get to a plateau where I have all the bees I want, then we may start selling bees. You know, we produce our own queens. We haven't bought a queen in probably over 10 years. Charlie helped us learn how to graft. We buy mothers. That's the only kind of queens we buy. We don't even buy mothers. We buy queen cells from the mothers we want. And we raise our own queens. We raise our own stock. We use Russian stock. There's a lot of different avenues in bee business to make money. If you want to do it as a hobby, it's a lot of fun. It's challenging though. You can make money from selling bees. You can make money from pollination. You can make money from selling honey. There's all kind of different deals in it. I have a son now who started always the whole time. All of my children had to work in bees. That was mandatory because I needed help. I didn't have any help, and we were poor. We didn't have anything. So they all had to work in bees. They didn't have no choice. And I have a son, he's 27 years old now, and he wanted to start selling the honey. So he can't near sell the honey we make, but he's started, and so you'll see our brand, Carmichael's Honey. It's in most of the stores now. And the whole time growing up, he never understood why our brand wasn't there. Well, he understands now. Everything you do in bees is a different job. It's all a different. Raising queens is different. Raising honey is different. Selling bees is different. Pollinating is different. And there's a lot of different avenues in this business that you can make money with. And most of the people in this business you'll find are helpful and very kind and eager to help you if you want help. And we're going to check right now with Charlie, which we hadn't done yet, and we're going to find out what's blooming.
What's blooming? There's quite a bit out there blooming. We got our ornamentals that's been blooming, and that would be, and they do work these, that would be red bud and Bradford pear. Of course, you have your peach trees and your plum trees. Their plum trees are on the way out now. White Dutch clover has been blooming pretty good. Buttercup is doing real good too. Matter of fact, the bees are making surplus off of buttercup right now. You have this white flower here, I call it the camas. They work it for pollen. There's enough of it out there that the bees work it quite well. They have another little white flower here. That one right there. It's in the aster family. I never have looked it up. Around here, the local people call it the spring white flower. The bees work it for pollen and nectar. It does grow up in the field quite well.
Sorry about that.
We also have yellow top. It likes wet ground. That's,
A lot of time along
that's a
the
local
ditches,
name
you'll see
for it, by the
that.
way. It's in the dandelion family. We also have, that is going to be blooming pretty soon, is thistle. There's many different kinds of thistle. That's the one we got. Very, very attractive to bees. When you see one of those in bloom, you can probably count at least a dozen bees in each bloom. That is I call it the rootstock of an orange tree.
Absolutely, that's what it is.
It's not an orange tree, but it's the rootstock from an orange tree. It's still in the citrus family, and it's very attractive to bees. Somewhat attractive to bees. That looks like a,
Looks like a chicken.
can't tell from the leaf.
There's a blackberry.
This may be some kind of a little oak.
That's what it looks
All
like.
your oaks bloom, your pecans bloom.
Pecans are not even leafed out
No,
yet.
pecans have not leafed out. Your live oaks are blooming right now.
Live oaks are blooming, your oak trees are blooming, yes, bees will work them for pollen.
Absolutely.
She got a little tree right there, little oak tree right there. And of course, you got your live oaks, everybody should know what that is. She
There's your
has
live
something
oak
else
right
up there. Now, that's a live oak.
Willows a lot of your willows
Oh,
have
here we
bloomed
go.
already.
This is what I saw here. You also have wild cherry blooming.
Big time right now.
Big time right now. I don't know what this is. Don't have enough of it, and it looks like a hawthorn, but it's not. We got dewberry blooming. They're big time on it too.
It's not blackberry, that's dewberry.
That's what I said,
Yeah,
dewberry.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I'll make sure they understand.
Because blackberry will be coming on pretty in a few more weeks also. She has some other flowers. I do not know what they are. There's a lot of stuff that I just don't know what it is because I never have taken the time, but I do know quite a bit of it. Very seldom see a bee on that. This is vetch.
Joe said the deer likes that.
Deer food.
Their bees like it too. Clover, bird clover. Little yellow bloom. Gotta think of the name, but
Is that a hen bit?
huh?
Not a hen bit, huh?
No, it's not henbit. Henbit is still blooming too, by the way.
It's still blooming.
It's blooming quite late because it's been so cool.
Coral.
It looks pretty.
Huh?
It looks pretty.
This is I can't think of the name of it.
It's okay, Charlie.
Uh,
Can't think of a lot of
it's
things.
mostly an ornamental that you plant.
You see
There's
that
several
one
different
lot of
varieties of it.
Isn't that verbena?
That's
Yeah,
extinct.
that's it.
Verbena?
Verbena. And of course, we still have some bird clover, yellow clover. It's called. This is not yellow clover. Yellow clover is a sweet clover, and it makes a long bloom about that long. And it's not time for it to bloom either.
And we have our crimson clover that's blooming right now.
Crimson clover is blooming.
But I thought they didn't like red. Do they like the crimson?
Oh, they'll work crimson, absolutely.
Yes, this is in the down. This is down the
Sound
line.
thistle. I believe that's what you just held up.
But this one here, I don't know what it is. I do know that we have hawthorn blooming, but this is not hawthorn. It's very close.
Rough-leaf dog.
So anyway, there is quite a bit blooming right now this time of year. The tallow blooms are a little bit slow this year because
Be like,
they are just now leafing out. This time last year, they were pretty well leafed out. The tallow tree is not a cold weather tree. It can be frozen back, and some of it this year was frozen back. So I look for this to be a end of May tallow flow. Also, privet is budding out.
Yep. Privet is the same thing as your ligustrum. It's the same family.
It's called Chinese privet.
yeah.
It's what we have here that's growing wild.
It'll produce honey if you have your hives good and strong, which they,
If you're fortunate enough to have your hives next to the woods, you got a lot of that wild privet out there.
Yeah.
Boy, they really do like it.
yeah.
There's another one that nobody's talked about, and that's your azaleas. They're starting to bloom right now.
I don't think they work azaleas a whole lot.
Yeah,
They will work.
they do work as a.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the same family as the blueberry. They'll work them, but there's a lot of stuff.
Same family as,
There's a lot of, they'll work the blueberries, but a lot of stuff you want them to work, a bee works what it's attracted to. They don't sit there and make a decision that they're gonna work something that's gonna make more honey because it's gonna make more honey. It's whatever they're attracted to. That's why some years you'll find that bees have made a honey and you don't know what they made honey on. It's because maybe something bloomed that doesn't normally bloom that year, or something didn't bloom that normally blooms, so they work something else that made more honey. So they work mainly whatever they're attracted to.
there
And,
is a tree with this similar leaf that's blooming right now. If you walk up to it, you probably won't be able to tell it's blooming. It's called yopon. It makes a little red berry that the Indians used to make pemmican with. It's also very attractive to bees, and they do make honey some years, honey. Especially around Texas where there's an awful lot of it. So, as far as what's coming up blooming, our privet is budding out like he says. And in that
Blackberry.
Blackberry will be blooming. And after those bloom, and better hope there's some clover. I hope we get a lot of good rain for the clover to come out, because it's gonna be a long time before the tallow blooms.
Some of our clovers bloom already. We have some
Yeah.
clover.
Yeah, but the rain will keep it blooming.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about. If the rain quits, then it'll quit blooming. It'll dry up. And that's what Charlie's talking about. If the last several years, the privet has run right into the tallow. So you've been, from the springtime to the end of the tallow, you've been kind of on a small honey flow all the time. Years gone past, a lot of times, between the privet and the tallow flow, you would have to feed because there was nothing. And you'd had these giant hives that had built up on privet. Some of them had made a little honey that could sustain them. But what would end up happening is you'd have to actually feed the bees to keep them in good condition and keep them from going down on you, because you'd get what you call a dearth period. A lot of people think just because it's warm, the bees are doing well. And that's not true at all. If there's nothing like what we've talked about, all these different blooms, if it's warm, they will not do well. They need blooms. And the bees will work in a lot cooler weather than you realize. Sometimes I saw bees flying yesterday at the house. I was out and they were in the water, getting water, all big, heavy yesterday. And
According to my scale hive, when it was sunny, they were flying when it was 44 degrees out.
they'll fly when it's cool. Especially your darker bees, like the Russian bees, will fly in a lot cooler temperatures. And like we were talking about earlier with the swarming, what you want to try to do is prevent swarming, because some hives, and I know Charlie's seen this a lot, they'll start swarming and they'll make a nice big swarm. And then a few days later, they'll make a swarm that's not so nice, but it's okay. Then a few days later, they'll make another little bitty swarm. And after a while, there's nothing left in the box. It's done swarmed itself to death. So the best thing you can do is, if you don't have queens, if you don't have queen cells, and the hive is real big, go in there and break up the hive. And I know that sounds brutal, but the worst thing to do is do nothing, because the chances of you being there when it swarms so you can catch the swarm is not very good. And the chances of you, even if you stand in there when it swarms, of being able to see where the swarm goes may not be real well, because it may go way up 40 feet in a tree somewhere. So a beekeeper is going to get out there early and break up the hive. And if you don't want to have to move it and do all that other kind of stuff, the best way to do it is like, this is the way I do it. We go in there and we'll take the big hive and we'll move it to another location. You don't have to move it far. Move it several feet away. Move it 100 yards away. Move it 50 feet away. Move it 6 feet away. Move it to another location. And then what we like to do is take, if you don't have a queen, even if you have a queen, take some eggs and jelly brood and a little bit of honey and come put it back where the old queen was at. And on that eggs and jelly brood, try to get adhering bees, nurse bees, like Mike called them earlier. And what's going to happen is you can take half the brood from the mama hive. That's a good amount. Leave it with 2 to 3 frames, bring most of it back here, and what's going to happen is the mama's going to lose the field force. The field force is going to come where she was at, but she's going to sustain brooding nurse bees there, and she's going to go way down on numbers, but she will slowly build up, and this will help prevent swarming. What's going to happen where she once was is they're going to produce queen cells, and they're going to produce queens, and one of these little queens will fly out and mate, hopefully, and you'll produce another hive, and you'll keep your hive. Worst thing that'll happen is you'll have a failure and you won't produce another beehive. But at that point in time, you'll have a box that's probably a lot of times full of honey. And you can take it and put it back on top of there, on top of the old mama. And that's what we're doing right now. And we're doing that in a massive way because we're trying to keep our bees from swarming. Because bees that aren't in your hives aren't making you any honey. And that's what you don't want. So the worst thing for you to do right now is nothing. You know, if you're serious about keeping your bees.